Today, a first of many videos on Di2 as I step my way through the process of learning what the system is all about. Those already familiar with Di2, this will be all old hat stuff. You're across it, I'm sure you've gone through many trials and tribulations over the years getting to know the ins and outs on the system, but for me, this is all brand new. So if you haven't upgraded to Di2, maybe even if you're not looking at upgrading to Di2, this might be interesting to go through just so you're across what's going on and what people are using out there in the field, because Di2 is not going away anytime soon. Okay, so out of the box, literally my new bike doesn't come with all the optional extras for Di2. It comes with the Ultegra Di2 R8070, and it doesn't come with the wireless module needed for the group set on this bike to talk to head units or for programming via mobile devices. So as it stands right now, I do have the EW-WU111 wireless unit for Di2 system E-Tube on order. And what I found out early on with Di2 is everything is a serial number. I'm getting used to the language, but it's a whole new world of diagrams and compatibility charts and firmware updates, and it's a little overwhelming, but I'm slowly getting through it. Hopefully these videos are going to help everyone else out as well if you haven't seen this before, just to get used to it, to debunk the theory that it is too complex, even though it is, but we'll get there in the end. So while I sit around waiting for that module to arrive in the post so I can get into the programming side of things and connect everything up for the Di2 over Bluetooth and ANT+, I'm on YouTube, typing away, searching around, looking at compatibility charts and seeing what's going on with Di2 and how people have used it to solve problems that they've had. One video I did come across was from Rides of Japan, and there was one small little tidbit of information which was absolutely awesome that I picked up on. Now, what he covered was the Di2 battery charger that comes with your Di2. It does come in the box. This little thing here, this is actually a PC link. I can use this to connect to my Di2 via a Windows PC and program Di2. Happy days. So armed with this new information that the SM-BCR2 battery charger is a PC link, I set about doing 3 different things. Now, this is only just a small stepping stone for me upskilling with Di2. Now, those 3 things were, first of all, can I load up the E-Tube program for Windows? They don't have a Mac version, damn it, but I do have a Zwift machine for Windows, to see if this would actually connect and work with the system that I have. That was first. Number 2, to check all the components that had the latest firmware, because nowadays all these components here have their own separate firmware. Yes, your rear derailleur, your front derailleur, your handlebar, everything has its own firmware. So making sure the system that I had out of the box had the latest firmware. And thirdly, could I program those, well, unresponsive at this point in time, the A switches on top of the hoods. So both left and right hoods on Di2. Mine, I have the Hydro R8070 levers. I'm getting across the code names. They're the front and rear changes, and they also have the A button on top of both, which don't do anything. I have covered Dr. Stephen Lane's setup on one of his Cervelo bikes where he did have the wireless module, and those A buttons were configured to switch pages on his head unit on the computer on the front of the bike. So that was pretty cool. I don't have that wireless module, but I should be able to actually set those A buttons or A switches to change gears. That was the third thing I was going to try. So here we go. As I said, baby steps as I get across Di2 and what it's all about. First things first, connecting the cable to the junction box within the handlebars. And then the other end of the USB into the Windows PC. Next up was downloading the E-Tube software off the Shimano website, doing the installation of that. And double-clicking the program, and away we go. So here's what Di2 programming and loading the E-Tube software for the very first time looks like. So first of all, we have to agree to the terms and services that okay, scroll down, agree. Of course I read all that. I did read all that. Next up, well, obviously I have a road bike here, so we will click on road. It then opens up here, checks for a new version of the E-Tube project, should be right, and downloads the latest firmware updates for everything, which is kind of cool. Does it all in the background. There can be multiple components that need firmware updates, so rather than checking every single one, it'll grab all the firmware and do it for us. So from here, I click on connection check. The PC link takes it out of charging mode because it was charging via USB and into PC link / connection mode via the battery charger, which should have a better name than just battery charger. We wait for it to recognize the unit, so it takes a few seconds there. Okay, with the unit recognized, here's what's presented on screen. Every single component within the chain, I guess, of my Di2 setup. So you can see rear derailleur, front derailleur, levers. I also have the battery and the junction box, which I'm connected to. So no wireless unit there and no other componentry connected. So scrolling through, having a look at this, you can see there's a yellow dot or a yellow square on the firmware for the 11-speed rear derailleur, which means it needs a firmware update. Everything else is good to go. Look, no problems at all with this not being on the latest firmware because things do change out of the box. That giant bike might have been in the box, and I did get the guys at Shore Cycling to put together everything very, very fast. So no problems at all, and it gives me a chance to see what this process is about. So super easy here. We just click on Update Firmware, make sure the right one is selected, Update in Progress, and you can see there it's flashing away. Somebody did mention to me on Twitter that doing updates to Di2 is preferable over USB because if it does stuff up halfway through a wireless update, things can go a little bit skewy. So again, good idea there. If you do have the cable to do updates, highly recommended. Okay, 13 seconds to go. 12, 11, 10, 9. We're going to have liftoff here very soon. So straightforward there. I do like the process that it is all in one. It just auto selects what needs to be updated and away you go. Okay, complete. Firmware update done. Everything's happy. We're all up to speed with the R8070 group set that I have on the TCR. It's all code speak. We're getting there. Next up, the programming of the A switches on both levers. Let's see how I go with this. Again, just covering the basics for now. So what we can see here, it's currently set to cyclo computer left, which I don't have the connection for, so the button is doing nothing. What we're going to do is do that rear shifting up. Now it's reversed for me. You go up the cassette or down the cassette. They flip it, but I want the left to go up the cassette and down to go down. So the same physical side of up and down. So when I'm riding along, it just changes up and down in the back. So we review and confirm those configuration details. We unplug everything and let's take this outside to make sure it all works. Here we go, bike back in the same spot as before. We click those buttons and if you can see down near my knees there, the rear derailleur is changing. Super, super cool stuff and as easy as that. So my first tinkering around with Di2 with the firmware updates and the programming of those A switches, happy days. And just to show you another thing that I love about Di2 is the auto trimming of the front derailleur. You see it just zip around there. As the rear derailleur changes, the front will just auto trim itself so there's no rub. So there it is, my first dip into updating the firmware on Di2, learning a little bit more about how it all operates and using the battery charger as the PC link. Who'd have thought? Thanks again to Rides of Japan for that small little sentence he added into that video, which opened this whole new world up to me whilst I wait for that EWW1 Ewok thing. It's all code names. We shall get there. Okay, time for me to get out on the road, clock up some more Ks on the Festi 500. Hopefully yours is going well as well. If not, just enjoy the ride. Thanks for watching. Now, about that free hub noise.